Hi, it's Mr. Pattinson here at school, and I would like to do a quick little demonstration on a couple of ideas that might help you with the spout on your teapot. So gather over here, look over my shoulder, and see what I'm doing here on this board. For this demonstration, I've gathered my rolling pin, a couple of these sticks that we're very familiar with now, a knife for cutting clay, a pair of scissors, one straw, a few paper templates, some clay slip, and some fresh clay. You have options when it comes to your spout. I don't want to tell you that you need to make a spout any particular one way, but you could make something that's geometrical. We've seen a shape like this before. You have some pre-packaged spout at home, and this is what you might be able to do with that. And you can vary the spout with whatever kind of slab you might want to make. So the decision is yours, but the technique is all similar. The last time we saw this object, it was pretty floppy. I had just attached the pinch pot to the top of a cylinder. So we have a cylinder form pinch pot all sealed over. You might not want to do that with your teapot, but we'll probably open this up again later. I'm going to attach a spout to this and help you figure out how you might attach yours. I'm going to unwrap some of this pre-packaged spout material, the stuff that you picked up at the back door and have taken home with you. I always want to make sure that my ideas work. So this has been packaged as long as your spout has been packaged, and it should be pliable and workable. It's 25 minutes later now, and I've removed the saran wrap from the wet clay. Maybe I'll do that differently next time. Inside the wet clay is a piece of dowel to keep the cylinder open, and that seems to have worked out just right. This clay is about the same consistency and dryness as the teapot that I'm going to attach the spout to. So things are looking pretty good so far. I'm going to use my knife to locate a place on the side of the cylinder where I want to attach my spout. Once I've done that, I'm going to take this straw. I realize that plastic straws are evil. This is the last package of plastic straws I'll ever buy. I'm going to take the end of the straw and push it through in about 2 locations. Comes out clean. That's the nice thing about straws. Because this is the last package of straws I'll ever buy, I'm just going to snip that off and give myself a clean end. And I'm going to put a hole beside the other hole, right in here like that. The reason for that is I want the water in the tea, or whatever liquid that fills the chamber, to come through those holes and into the spout. I'm going to angle this spout. I'm going to make an angle cut because I want the spout to be turned slightly upwards. So it's going to look something like that. You can see it becomes an oval shape already. If it attaches this way to the teapot, I think I want something similar at the other end. However, if this one is beveled this way, angled this way, I think I want the one at the top to be slightly different. So I'm going to cut it here. You can see that when I attach it, it's going to come off the teapot at this angle. I might want to flare this open a little bit. If it's just maybe a little bit too much the same as the top of the spout, I may want to widen the base, and I can widen the base with this piece of wooden doweling that I put inside. So what I want to do here is just put the dowel inside the base of this spout and just put a little bit of pressure on it. Not a whole lot, but just enough to slightly change that shape. And what I find is that although it thins the side slightly, it also gives me a little bit more flare here. So now it's going to attach with a little bit more substance at the base. You can play around with it however you like, it's up to you. I have my holes in my spout, so I'm going to just stick this on here and trace around with a sharp tool because I want to locate the spout over those 2 holes, and I want to score this area because I'm going to put slip there. Okay, I've scored and slipped the end of the spout and the location here on the side of the cylinder. I noticed that I have room for another hole or 2, so I think if I want my tea to pour well, I'll put 2 more holes in it. I have that space now. I've made that decision. I can add 2 holes and know that they'll be inside. Okay, I've scored, slipped, and created 5 more holes here. So I'm going to place this over top and carefully join the spout to the cylinder. I'm going to use my thumb to blend this down a little bit and smooth it in. I know that it's on there, that it's going to stay, and now I can work the seam with my finger or with the piece of dowel or any kind of small wooden tool that will help smooth that over. Okay, I've joined it on, I've pressed it on well, and you can see that it's a little bit rough because I've dragged clay across the seam. I'm going to smooth that down, and then I'll attach another little piece of clay, just a small bead of clay, a very narrow coil of clay around here. It'll reinforce that and allow me to make that a nice smooth blend from the spout to the cylinder. Now, using my knife and a little bit of slip, I'm going to take this carefully rolled piece of clay and wrap it around here. Just one more additional coil that I can join on here and blend in to smooth that transition from the spout to the cylinder. Okay, I can continue to refine this, smooth it down, a little piece of sponge, a small amount of water if you want to. That will help it work itself into the side of the cylinder. All right. I can turn this a little bit. I can shape the spout if I want it to come up a little bit more, and I think I kind of like that. I can also flare the end of it to make pouring easier. So if I pinch the actual front of the spout and give it a little bit of shape, then, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see, it just has a little bit of an opening at the front that narrows, and that I think would allow for easier pouring. Have a look at a teapot at home. You'll see how it flares out a little bit like that. Okay, there's one approach, using that cylinder that you have of clay. Another approach is this geometric shape. And geometric shapes are easy and fun because you can use templates. I actually found the little templates that I used to make this teapot a few years ago. So I'm going to go back and use these again. As I recall, this spout is pretty small and it's a little bit tricky, but I'm just going to lay the stencils out on the clay before I cut. I'm just going to use my knife to cut these out according to the stencils as they lay on the clay. Remove this, and I have my 2 pieces. I'm going to actually use a knife now. You see they're the same shape that I want them to be, but I'm going to take a little bit of clay off of each of these sides, as I know that they're going to face each other, and a bevel will help bring the sides together a little bit more effectively. Remove the pieces of cardboard off of each of these. And I'm going to bring those beveled edges together. Where'd they go? Right there. Okay. And I'm going to create this kind of shape. I'll score and slip that, and then I'll get back to you. Scored and slipped. So I'll push these together, and I'll take a minute to refine this. But you can see my teapot spout is going to be kind of like that. Okay, I have a shape here. Looks a bit like Aladdin's sandal, I think, or the front of a canoe. But I'm going to attach that to my pot over here just to show you that you can vary these however you want. When I put it on here, I can see it's pointing a little bit high, so I'm going to taper this a little bit by removing some clay on an angle like this. Once you have that spout made, the process is exactly the same. Locate where you want the spout to be on the cylinder, score the edges, and trace the location around the outside with a knife or a sharp tool. Okay, so I've located it. I have the rest of my straw, and I'm going to put probably 4 or 5 holes in here. Okay, each time I push the straw through the clay, it pulls out a little bit of the clay wall, the cylinder wall. I snip off that little bit of the straw, and I push this in here. So I'm only using one straw a millimeter at a time. Okay, I'll just work this on with my thumbs. I don't think I'll put a bead on this one as it goes around here. I really like the way it fit on there. I think because I beveled the clay on the back. So this fit is pretty nice the way it is. Okay, so here's the scoop spout with the 5 holes inside. Of course, you can vary this idea any way you like. So you can free form completely with a slab of clay that is more scoop shape, or you can do something silly and unpredictable. Just fold my paper in half so that I have some symmetry, and I'll take my scissors and cut a shape. Okay, this one will be a tall, skinny spout, but the same idea. Bevel the edges, scoring and slipping, and bringing those edges together. Locating, again scoring and slipping on the cylinder, on here. This spout has a longer, stranger shape. I can use any kind of wooden tool to reach inside and push the sides out the way I want them to look, and I'll carefully blend that seam down so that it looks like it's emerging from the cylinder as a single piece. Here's a tip for a handle. Borrow the shape of something that you like. Here's a little piece of pre-fired clay, but I could just as easily use this plastic tub. You can roll a cylinder of clay to go around the outside. Okay, ensure that the piece that you're making for the handle is reasonable for the size of the teapot. You don't want anything too small because it will tend to break off. Something about this size, for a cylinder this big, I think is fairly reasonable. Borrow the shape of an existing object. Wrap your cylinder around it like that, and then let it toughen up for a little while. Set it aside, give it a few minutes just to become firm. Something like that. It's a few minutes later now, so I'll just trim this off and hope that the handle has toughened up to what I am hoping for. I will locate, score, slip, and attach. If ever your handle starts to droop a little bit, or whenever you want to allow clay to dry in place, make a little stump. If clay that is scored and slipped together stays together, then the opposite has to be true. If it is not scored and slipped, then you don't have to worry about it sticking together. To finish this off, I'll cut a small lid according to that technique that I showed you in the last video, where I trace a circle, cut through, and add a little piece to the top. I'll do that now. Scored and slip the lid. Work that onto the lid. There, with some smoothing and refining, that'll work out pretty nicely. Color, decoration, and texture are completely other considerations, but we'll think about that in the future. I hope this has been helpful to you.